everyone. Hi. Um, I hope that you're all doing well. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are or you're going to be watching this from. Um, Thank you so much for joining me today. And please comment and let me know where you are joining us from. Um, and also, please share this video to other people so that they would be able to um, listen to this, leave their comments, and everything else. Because I think this is such a huge topic right now. Um, and I think it's also a topic that is being given so much voice. So I hope you're okay, wherever you are. Um, and also, even as I share today, because I'm going to be talking about my journey, um, my journey with Christianity and religion and living it and embracing spirituality, and also just really talking so much about the in between and how how I got to that. And so feel free to ask questions. The only thing that I will not respond to is anything that is rude, because I don't have time for that. But if you have genuine questions, I am so happy to share them with you and just to really hear your thoughts um, and hear your opinion, because everyone is in a different place or time with their journey, and it's totally fine. It's acceptable. Um, so I am Rhoda, and I am a transformation coach and facilitator. I'm also a psychic medium, and I'm a business owner amongst many other juicy stuff. You'll see me looking so much at my iPad. And the reason why I'm actually doing that is because I want to be able to stay on topic, because it's so easy for me to start talking about something and then get carried away and start talking about something else and then don't necessarily finish what I wanted to speak about. So um, this is why I'm going to be having this as I talk about everything else. So um, as you join and as you're watching, just say hello. Let me know where you're joining from, and leave me your comments and everything else. I will be able to look at it, and any questions that you might have, as I said, I will be answering that as well. So today on Abundantly You podcast, I am the guest. So I am the host and the guest, and I'm really going to be sharing so much about myself. I usually do interviews with other people, but I thought this time around it would be good for me to be able to share this because of the transitions that have happened into my life and because of the stuff that I share and the stuff that I get on my inbox, so that people will know where I am, so that I don't have to keep telling people where I am, kind of thing, and just to really make it public. Anyway, so I'll just start briefly with how I actually got into religion. And this was like, I think in 2011. And even before I got in religion, I really did not like religion. I didn't really like anything to do with it, mainly because of how I grew up, where I grew up. And I grew up, where I grew up, I went to a boarding school. And in the boarding school, you were actually forced to go to church, and we were forced to partake in, with everything on Sunday. You had to show up, and um, the people who were in charge at that time used to actually say to myself and some of my friends that we had demonic spirits, and that was not a really good experience, especially when you're in a boarding school. And that was kind of like my experience growing up, and then also seeing in society where I grew up, because I grew up in Nairobi. I saw so many pastors taking advantage of women, widows, and single women, and I just didn't like that. Pastors would show up at people's houses and stuff like that, and I think it was so rude. So I didn't really like them, and that was kind of like my background when it came to religion. I was very, very spiritual. I used to have dreams. I used to know stuff about people and all of that stuff, and I actually thought everyone was like that. So in 2011, I actually that's when I had a client, because I worked in media then, and I had a client um, who was a pastor. So I started going to her church um, because I wanted to keep the client, you know. Um, and I started going there, and the more I went in there, I started to enjoy the environment, and I eventually got saved. And within a very short period of time, I actually started preaching, and this is something that um, people didn't like within the religious setting, because they were saying you haven't been saved long enough for you to be able to start preaching and teaching. And, things like those didn't really bother me, because some of the leaders that I was moving with at that time were really supportive, and, they didn't really see any issue with that. And so the church where I got saved at was, a very spiritual place in terms of like prayers. It was very heavy on prayers and fasting and all of that. So that was kind of like my foundation. It was like really rigorous. We used to pray every single day at midnight, like literally. We would be awake and we would be joining on the phone line and we would be praying for like an hour. It was like really hardcore. So eventually I left that church and I went into another church, and for people who have been in the church setting would understand this. So the church where I got saved at was considered a deliverance church, and the church where I moved to was considered a prophetic church. And that is kind of like where I actually began to understand stuff like, the gifts that I had and all of that stuff. And, it was so much fun because we're moving in the supernatural. The stuff that we saw, I mean, it's stuff that you would literally see in movies, but we did see a lot of supernatural stuff. We did see people getting healed. We saw, people getting, delivered, people just getting so much profound prophetic words that really changed their lives. I remember one time we had gone to an event, and there's a man who had a dream, and the dream kept on recurring. I remember we actually interpreted that dream, and it turned out that the wife was actually planning to leave him. And because we were able to interpret the dream, they were able to save that marriage, and they're still married up to today. And I think we were doing so much good, and it was so much fun, and I really loved it. And that was the good side of it. And when I was actually getting into church, for personally, I had gone through so much stuff. Like I had gone through abuse and everything else, so I really needed a community that was really caring and loving. And I did get that, in that environment. I got that, and I really loved that, and I loved the community until I didn't. Because after some time, things were really insane. Things were just kind of like all over the place. Things started, one of the things that I actually noticed with myself is anywhere I go, I start getting close to leadership, and I start working with leadership. And it's just something that I've always had in my life. And even when I was in church, I was always spending so much time with leaders, and some of the leaders had like big, massive churches that you would not be able to even believe. Like there were international ministers and stuff like that. And I even got to be a minister, an international minister. I was ordained as a prophet. So I was moving like with people who are like really high up when it came to ministry. And these people were amazing as well. There's nothing wrong with them. They were amazing people, really great mentors, and all of that stuff. But also there was, that when there's good, and there's bad, there's both sides to the story. And one of the things that I started to notice was like there was a lot of manipulation in terms of like they wanted people who were really gifted, or people who were really good, or people who could really give, and stuff like that. But they wanted to control those people in a way that you were not, they wanted you to be in that church. They wanted you to be there, at all costs. I remember there's a church that I actually visited, and that particular pastor actually said to me that she wanted me to be the pastor in that church, number one. And I said no, because I wasn't interested in being a pastor in any church. And she wanted me to be the pastor because she wanted to be traveling the world and plant other churches, because this is something that was very common with people in ministry. They wanted to go to different places, and they wanted to plant churches all over the place. And I said to her that that's not something that I was interested in, because I knew that I wasn't called to be a pastor. I knew that that wasn't really something that I wanted to do either, be stuck in one place. I mean, the thought of it just really made me cringe. And she then came back to me when I refused, and she came back to me, and, the next time she was asking me if to make sure that every single month, like the congregation gave towards her, like the congregation had to give her £1,000 for upkeep, and also to come up with the money to be paying the rent for the venue. Now, the people in her audience, like the people who were going to her church, most of them didn't even have jobs, right? most of the people didn't have jobs and most of the people were in benefits. So you're asking people who don't have jobs, who are already struggling, to give twice because you want them to look after the church and look after you. And this particular woman was really wealthy. She's got, she's got properties all over London and she's got tenants in the place. And I thought this this was really disgusting for me. And I chose to leave because I was thinking to myself, I really don't want to be in a place where it exploits people. And so I saw stuff like that going on. I saw people really being, abused, misused. There was a lot of molestation. People were not even able to talk about it because they didn't want to make a big fuss because some of the leaders were actually really well known. And it was one of those things that I was thinking, I didn't want to be in environments like that, and so I decided to stop going to church completely. And when I stopped going to church, oh my God, it was the most insane thing because people were projecting their fear on me. They were like, oh, you have to go to church. You have to have a place where you go to church. Now, let me explain this. When I used to go to church, I used to go to church on a Wednesday, and I used to go to church on a Friday, and I used to go to church on Sunday. Wednesdays was Bible study, Friday was Friday service, Sunday was Sunday service. So I was in church 3 days a week. So when I stopped going to church, obviously, it was I felt so much relief because I had time for myself. Um, but also for me, it was, I wanted to really have time to really study the Bible for myself, because at that time I had started doing Bible study, and the stuff that I was actually reading in the Bible and the stuff that was being preached was totally different. Now, there's a big difference between preaching and teaching, and I'm not really a big person. I wasn't big on preaching. I prefer teaching because I believe teaching people brings more transformation, and people understand why they're doing the stuff that they're doing. So even when I was in the church, there's so many questions that I had, and I was always asking these questions. And I used to get in trouble being told, like, if you ask questions like those, the secret things belong to the Lord, and those were kind of like the answers all the time. And I was always like, well, but if it's been mentioned in the Bible, for instance, why would Enoch be mentioned in the Bible if it's supposed to be a secret? Why would you mention it and then not tell me the whole story? And I started doing so much research, and I found like so many other books that were not in the Bible. I started to, know so much about the stuff that was omitted, and just doing the research. And at this time I was still doing the Bible study and going into the history of the church, how the church was founded, how the Bible was put together. And most of those things just really confirmed the feelings that I had within me, which always were like, we're not hearing the complete story, because I believe in a creator, but I don't believe in a creator who has the characteristics of a human being. I don't believe that the creator that we have will get angry and would get mad and would behave like that. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that a creator can have the attributes of saying to someone, go and plunder and rape people and kill people. I don't believe that. And one of the things also I didn't believe is that I didn't believe in hell. I was thinking to myself, like, if um if Jesus died for my sins and everything is by grace, then why are we so busy doing works? Why are we, because then sin should not exist. Then some of the things that we're taught should really not exist. We shouldn't even be focusing on that, but we should be focusing on what Jesus actually said when he ascended. And he was saying that he wanted us to do greater. He said that we when he was ascending, he spoke about greater things ye shall do. And he was speaking to the disciples, and I'm thinking, well, I was looking around and I'm thinking, well, if we are supposed to be doing greater things, why are we not doing that? Why are sick people still out there? Why are people dying of things that they shouldn't be dying of? Why are the widows not looked after? Why are orphans still not looked after? Why are we focusing on things that we should really be focusing on? The majority of the things that we were focusing on are not stuff that we should be focusing on. And also just really things about thinking about the Nephilim. I'm thinking, where did the Nephilim go? I'm thinking about the flood. I'm thinking, okay, about the giants and all of that stuff. And even looking at history, and then just really doing different studies. For me, it just didn't really add up. And the more I started to study, the more I started to look at different aspects, the more I started getting more interested in the mind and the soul and all of those things. And I realized that some of the things that are in the scripture, I say the Bible is a metaphysical book. It is highly symbolic, but we don't read it as it is. We just read it as a story, but it's very, very symbolic. And I say that it's a plagiarized book. It's heavily plagiarized because there's so many scriptures in the Bible which are found, for example, in the Book of the Dead or the Emerald Tablets or the Epic of Gilgamesh. So if you read all of those books, everything is like it's in the Bible, but it's been duplicated because all of those things were in the Bible, were in those books before they were in the Bible. And for me, those things were like making me really uncomfortable. Of course, I still believe that there's a creator, but I don't believe that that creator is within the confine of any religion ever. I don't think that any religion can express God fully, or the creator, whichever way you want to call it, or the universe. I don't think only one religion can express it fully. And that's why for me, I for me it was so easy to leave the church and to leave religion behind. And when I was reading all of these things, I was studying, and at that time I had a Bible study. So I used to go to the Bible study and share all of these things, and people were not really receptive to it. And I just didn't understand why, because I was like, but I'm giving you all of this concept. I'm not saying to accept it. I'm saying that just go and do your research and see what you find. And what I didn't realize is, like, I had started to what is considered deconstructing. So for me, it had started around 2015, but I didn't know because I was still going to church, I was still reading other books, I was studying and everything. But all the growth and everything that I've learned and unlearned from 2015, the research that I had done till around 2017, I was trying to actually bring that to people, and it was not easy for them to receive it because they were not where I was. But at that time, I didn't understand that. I just thought, why would they not listen to this? Why would they not even attempt to go and research? And it's it's then that I met a really good friend of mine on Facebook, and he started saying to me that, oh, what you actually went through is deconstruction and all of that stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's actually a term for this. And I began to understand where I was, and I felt I felt much better that I had stopped doing the Bible studies, because I would have caused more harm to those people than benefiting them. Because there's when you have a belief system that's been ingrained in you, and you need to remember that I wasn't even in that system for a very long time. I was in that system from 2011. Some people have been in that system for years, over 10-20 years. So it's really ingrained in them. And what you're trying to do is bringing them new information. And that's why they react the way they do, because it's not because of anything else. It's just that deep rooted fear that, we've been told about, which is hell. If you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. And it's also something else that I didn't believe in. I just don't believe in hell. And when you say to people that you don't believe in hell, it's just like, oh my gosh, how can you not believe in hell? And the fear that they have is actually projected to you. And for me, that was happening a lot. The people that I was speaking to, and I literally decided to take those people out of my life, because I was thinking, I'm actually going through a process where I am unlearning, and I am working so much on getting rid of those beliefs and the fear and the trauma, because there's so much trauma that people have. I mean, within the church system, there are certain protocols which state, it's an unspoken thing. Well, it's certain people who have more authority. So it's kind of like saying that they're closer to God, or they have a better relationship with God. And it's not true, because every single person has a relationship with the creator, and it looks different. And no relationship is perfect or better than another one. But this is something that was really put there, and there was a lot of distrust being put in people's lives, which was like, well, if you don't do this, if there's certain protocols, you have to come to church for this time, you have to be saved for a number of years before you can do certain things. And I just didn't believe in that stuff. I mean, I used to teach on dreams and visions and helping people to start interpret their own dreams, and people didn't like it because you're taking away, their livelihood, because that's how they were making money. And for me, that system was just not working for me. And the things that I also learned, the things that I realized, the things, that, when the things that people say about, you have to be a certain way for you to have a relationship with the creator. It's actually not true, because the guidelines that they've set out is the guidelines that man set out, and they do not have the authority to actually do that, because the creator did not ask them to do it. Because the creator did not ask them to do it, it's not something that I'm going to follow. So there's so many different things for me that just didn't work, and I didn't ascribe to. And one of the major reasons why I left, because the whole system became one of, it's showing off, it's who has the biggest ministry, who has the biggest numbers, who travels a lot more. I mean, people were talking about, killing themselves, um traveling to different countries just to do ministry. I'm telling you, literally killing themselves. They'd be begging for money just to be seen that they actually went to a specific country to minister. And I'm thinking, but if you're meant to be going there, why are you begging for money to be able to go there? And it was just insane. Like, just seeing all of that stuff going on was just, it just didn't work for me. And so much of the stuff that I actually learned as well just didn't work for me, and it's one of the major reasons why I left, because I studied the Bible, and most of the people who defend the Bible as it is have not studied it. It's just a fact. So that is one of the reasons why I actually left, and I don't know if anyone has any question or anything. If not, I'm just really gonna keep going, or even a comment, whatever you are in your faith. um I don't really judge people. You are whatever you are. You're going through your journey, whichever way it looks like it, because I am a firm believer that the creator put us here you know for a purpose, and every single one of us discovers that and walks that purpose, even without us knowing most of the time. um and that's just really how I am. So one of the things that um also really baffled me when personally, when I was living religion, like just really looking at how people treat other people, and those things were not really, you know uh, you can't really say that you love someone, but then in the same sentence say to them, well, I hope that you're forgiven for your sins and whatever, or you're going to go to burn in hell. And I personally believe that um what tends to happen is that we hi Jenny. Oh, thank you so much. You are a phenomenal woman too. It takes one to know one. That's what I usually say. I usually say that if you truly believe that, the God you serve is a forgiving God and loves other people, then you should be embracing people. And because, like I said, the Bible is a plagiarized book, end of. And the reason why I'm saying it's plagiarized, and it's badly plagiarized, is because on one hand you want to say that um, god is god is love, and then in the next few chapters of the next few books you want to say that God punishes people and kills people. That just does not reconcile. Or you want to say that God was really angry that he actually made man. And think about what that does to the psyche, that God was regretting that he ever created man. I mean, that's really deep, because we are human beings. So what we believe is that God regretted creating us. Is that what we are? Is that what we actually walk around believing, that God regrets creating us? I mean, I don't know about you, but that does not do anything good to the psyche, and things like this bring a lot of mental health. I mean, I remember sometimes looking at people praying, and they were begging, and they used to call it supplication, right? And they'd be begging for us, for God to do something. And I was like, but the Bible still says that, God knows your needs even before you say them. So why do you need to beg the whole night to actually get what you're praying for? You know, those things didn't sit well with me. They just didn't. Um, and so much more. I mean, I you might not agree with what I'm saying, but I ask you to just um, go and study the Bible for yourself, and just study it from the beginning to the end. Don't just read the books which are your favorite. Go and study the whole book, and actually see what is in there. See what you actually believe. You know, just have a good look, you know, at the stuff you believe. And also for me, I have an organization called Her Story Matters. I empower women, for goodness sake, to be the best versions of themselves. I tell women that they are phenomenal. They are amazing. They are wonderful. And yet the Bible portrays women as less than. I had an issue with that. You know, I had a huge issue with that, you know, saying that women are not allowed to preach. And I'm thinking, actually, no. And furthermore, Jesus was not even a Christian. He's a Jew, died a Jew. So where did Christianity come from? You know, it just doesn't make sense. If you actually go and just really study it. I have studied the Bible so many times when I was still in church. You know, nowadays I can use it to speak to anyone else, to relate to someone else who is a Christian. I will not throw it away because like I said, it's a metaphysical book and it's plagiarized. I read other books, you know, the Epic of Gilgamesh, like I've said. I read the Emerald Tablets. Stuff that is in there is in there, you know. So it's one of the reasons why I would still read it, but for me, I know what to take and what not to take, and I know it's a metaphysical book. It's not like a book you read. You know, it's metaphysical. You have to study. It's very cryptic as well, and you really just need to study it properly. Um, so I'm just gonna take a short break and just really talk about something exciting that I'm creating, and um, it's I'm launching a paid membership group for anyone who's interested in spirituality, quantum physics, and business. It's a membership that will have monthly teachings, we'll have masterminds, we'll talk about spirituality, support people in their journey, and just really study different aspects. If you want to study the Bible, we can study the Bible. If you want to study the Quran, we can study the Quran. We can study anything and have a look at all of those, because I'm that kind of person. I see myself as spiritual. I don't see myself as religious. I just don't believe in being religious. I believe in a creator, but I also know that the creator is not confined in any religion or any belief system. It's just not possible. Um, because we're told the creator is everywhere. The creator is in nature. The creator is in the air that we breathe. So how can we define who the creator is or how the creator expresses themselves? And I really believe that we are an expression of the creator. The creator experiences life through us. And that's a fact, because the creator is not human. It's just I just don't see that. Anyway, so in the group we'll have just topics to discuss business, because there's so many people who are very spiritual. They have spiritual businesses, but they don't know how to run the business. So there's going to be all of those aspects in there. I'm going to put a link on this video, so for anyone who's interested, you can join the wait list. And when we launch in August, you will be told about it. So when I launch, I'm only going to have a certain number of founding members, and then I'm going to close the membership, because I want to journey with those people for months before I open it up again. So just make sure you put yourself in on the wait list, so that you can come in with the first lot that actually comes in. But it's going to be so much fun. There's going to be so much growth, because I'm all about growth and transformation. But yeah, that's kind of like just the shameless plug I wanted to put in there. So I wanted to also talk about just really embracing spirituality and my birthright and ancestors' wisdom. And I know anytime you speak about ancestors, people get a bit freaky, especially Black people, because you've been told that your ancestors are evil and the practices of your ancestors was evil. But it's just crazy, because the Bible that you actually follow, you're following other people's ancestors. You call upon Jacob, Abraham. Those are other people's ancestors, not your ancestors. And the thing that I found for me, that religion took away from me, and I reclaimed it back when I left religion and Christianity, was my ancestors' wisdom. It's something that was lost from me. And when I talk about ancestors' wisdom, it is so much more than just the practices. It's the knowledge and the expertise that they had. Our ancestors had so much wisdom in terms of how to heal our bodies, how to keep ourselves strong, how to protect ourselves. And I would, if you think about spirituality, how I've actually explained it in terms of not within the confines of the Bible, you begin to realize that there's so many things which are actually spiritual that we haven't actually considered that they're spiritual. So let me explain. Nature is spiritual. When This is why even doctors would say to go to nature when you're depressed, because nature heals. Nature lifts up your mood. Like literally, it's a known fact, right? Um, so the creator is in nature, but these are things that we discount, right? And people call it like, oh, this is being a witch or whatever. And also, even with that word did not exist until what, the Puritan time. So many things that are in the Bible right now um, did not exist before. They were put in by someone else. And to prove this, the Bible, if you go and actually research when the Bible was put into place, it was put into place when, all of his disciples were dead, gone, forgotten a long time ago, before they actually started putting those scriptures together. So it was word of mouth, and it's been edited. And if you read the King James Version, basically you're reading what King James actually approved to be put in the scriptures, believe it or not. If you read the NIV version, it's what NIV approved to put in the scriptures. And this is why you will find some of the scriptures are missing, depending on whatever Bible that you read. So I can actually decide to put a Bible together, approved by Jenny, and people will read it, right? So, and this is why I'm saying the Bible is like heavily, heavily plagiarized, right? And because of that, I don't really identify with that. And I'm just going to talk about, spirituality for a bit. And I might lose some people here, and that's fine. It's not for everyone, really. It's for people who are really ready for it. So when you look at the New Testament, you get scriptures that talk about Paul, that talk about Peter, how he escaped from prison without the the doors being open, the prison doors being open. So how did he leave the prison? And then you see the Bible talking about Philip being transported to a different place to minister to the Ethiopian man, and then he was pushed back again to where he was. And then that's what we call translocation. And then you see in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus was actually speaking to Elijah and Moses. They're actually dead, but they they would be considered his ancestors. Whichever way you want to look at it, those people were dead, right? But your Bible tells you not to speak to the dead, right? And Jesus did it. It talks about certain things. It talks about things like tarot, for instance. And when you look at the whole concept of whether people use tarot or cowrie shells or any of those things, that concept is in the Bible, because the disciples cast lots to see who will be the next disciple. And before you say anything, Jesus was already dead and he had ascended. So when they were casting lots, the Holy Spirit was already there. So there's so many things that people say are really demonic, and they're not. And I'll stand by that. I don't care what anyone says. I know it's not demonic. So when I say reclaiming spirituality, I'm reclaiming the fullness of how I can commune with the Creator. And I mean, I'm already a psychic. And even before, like even when I was in the church, I still used to see like people would come to me, and I would see like people like, their dead relatives around them. I would not say it because I was being told that, you're not supposed to talk about that. But I used to see it. I would not talk about it, but I used to see it. But now I can talk about it because I'm thinking, well, I'm not within those confines anymore, and I'm not scared. And this is why I say that spirituality is a lot bigger. The Creator is a lot bigger than the confines of a book or any said religion. So in reclaiming my ancestors' wisdom. When I say that, I'm reclaiming everything about my ancestors. I'm reclaiming communicating them. I'm reclaiming their wisdom because their wisdom is in my DNA, and we can access that. This is what people call the Akashic records. When you go and you meditate, you can access that. It's within your ancestors. You know, it's been proven scientifically that the DNA is their DNA. Your DNA holds. Actually, there's a clip that I was following, and it's to do with science and quantum physics, and they were talking about our DNA having information, stored information that dates back to 200,000 years ago. I mean, this is why we literally say you are your ancestors. You really are, because that information is within your DNA. And I don't understand why, as especially as African people or Black people, we think that all of these things is demonic, where science is actually proving it. Science is proving that you have all of that within you. And even science is quantum physics is proving what we talk about, the epigenetics. When, in Christianity, people talk about, you know, in the Bible, it's like, the sins of the father, or um, whatever is within the DNA goes within 10 generations. It's in epigenetics. They can it's there. It's science is really complementing spirituality in ways that we didn't have before. And even when we talk about quantum physics, when we talk about different dimensions, people talk about 3D, 5D, but really there's like 11 dimensions. And they're so closely stacked together. And people talk about, when people talk about seeing particular spirits, or being able to see into the spiritual realm, that's literally what we're seeing. And it happens because the only reason that you can see me or I can see you is because technically we don't exist. We're all particles. Technically we don't exist, but we do. There's a way our brain collects all of that information, and it uses our five senses. So it uses the sense of touch, and it uses the sense of smell, and your eyes and your ears. It collects all of that information, and then it starts to arrange it. And this is why someone who is blind cannot tell you how a tree looks like, because they don't have that image within them. They can tell you how it feels like or how it smells like, but they cannot tell you what it looks like, because they just don't have that information being computed in the brain. So what I'm saying is that when people are talking about the spiritual realm, it exists. Science has proved, quantum physics has proved that there's like 11 dimensions. So whether you believe it or not, science has actually proved it. If you're someone like, oh, you have to see it to believe it, it is there. And also something else that people don't really like talking about, the Vatican has got like the strongest periscope. Why does the Vatican have that? And Vatican has go do a lot of scientific research. They do a lot of scientific research, and they've been watching this satellite in space that has been observing Earth for the longest time, and they're calling it, I think, the Black Knight. They've been observing it for the longest time, and why are they doing that? And before you say anything about the Vatican, well, one of the things that the reason why I'm bringing up the Vatican also is because some of the leaders that you actually follow within the Christian world, they're part of sects and orders within the Vatican. Like, this is stuff that when I was doing my research that I came across, and I was like, oh my goodness. And these are people who are really considered powerful in terms of the prophetic. They're considered like people who do signs, wonders, and miracles. And how do you think they're able to do that? Because I say to people, we're all supposed to be able to do that. We don't have that information. You've been told that you can only operate within certain confines. But there's some leaders actually who really heal people. There's some ministries in Africa which bring people from the dead. So if people are scared of the spiritual realm, how are you going to bring people back from the dead, and how are you going to be able to heal people? Because all of those things are within the spiritual realm. All of those things happen in the unseen world that every single person, like not every single person, I retract that. It's something that most of the Christians are scared of. And it's also one of the reasons why I left, because I always kept on feeling like there was something holding me back. I wanted to do a lot more in terms of spirituality. I wanted to, you know, I just knew there was more, and I just wasn't able to get to them more. And when I left, I began to understand why, because there's so much boundaries and confines, and you're not going to be able to operate spiritually if you have fear in you, you know. And this is why people, cannot hear their intuition clearly, because they've got so much fear. When you're operating in fear, fear shuts down so many things. And that is one tool that they use very well in religion: fear. They make you fearful of everything else and your neighbor and everyone else in between. you know they make you fearful of being in the world, of going to work in normal jobs. They make you fearful of going into entertainment or working in politics. They make you fearful of so many different things. I remember there's a time when I was a Christian that I used to love winning souls. Oh my God. And I wanted to go to a pub to go and minister, and the leader then was like, oh, no, 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 we don't want to do that, people might backslide. And I'm thinking, you don't trust people enough to go into a pub to minister? You're talking about faith. It was ridiculous. So fear really makes people not be able to access the spiritual realm. Fear makes people not be able to function spiritually, because you can do so much more if you get rid of the fear. It holds people back in the craziest ways. So it's one of the things that I actually saw. And um, when you look at the Bible, it talks about do not fear about 365 for each and every single day, because they knew. They tell you do not fear, but then I still tell you to be afraid. And when you're afraid, especially for people who try to listen in, when you're sitting down trying to meditate or even praying, when you've got fear, you're not going to be able to hear anything. You're not going to be able to access anything. So um, this is one of the reasons why they use fear so much. You're not going to be able to access what you want to access. You're not going to be able to access that information. And they know this. So most of these ministers, these leaders, I mean, I don't really want to name their names, because it's none of my business. They do them, it's their ministries. They do what they want to do with it, and they function the way they want to function. But all of this information, if you go and start researching it, you will say many of them belong in that order. Many of them belong within that sect. And by the way, Vatican is owned by the Holy See, and it's an organization. It's a very powerful organization, by the way, that literally they print their own passport and stuff like that. And their passports, just go and look it up. Their passports they've got no restrictions. They can enter in any country and not need a visa with that passport. That's how powerful they are. And they have all of that information. The Vatican has so much information from um, the books, the lost books. Why do you think they're constantly doing excavations and trying to get dead people's bones? Why do you think, just ask yourself, like, why, if your gods or if your ways were so demonic, why do they have those statues in their museums where people pay money to go and look at them? They would have destroyed them if they were that demonic. But we just don't really, it's so true, Jen. Yeah, Fiestas equals growth in every single way. You know, um, if those things were so bad and if they were demonic, why are they in the British museums? Why are they in Italian museums? Why do they have all of those mummies, and why do they still continue to dig up in Egypt? Ask yourself, why do they go and dig up people's bones? The answer is in the Bible. Um, when Elisha died and he was buried, some of the thieves were running past and someone fell in his grave. I think not someone fell in his grave. I think they threw someone's body they threw someone who was dead in the grave, and the person came back to life. Think about that. So some things are really powerful, and it's there right in front of you, but people just do not study it. If you actually studied it, you will know the truth, as they like to say. The truth really shall set you free. All of that information is in there. I mean, why would they go and dig up people's bones? People were dead. I mean, we've just had a story now that some people went into the Amazon, some British people went into the Amazon and they were killed off because they were digging up people's bones. Why are they digging up people's bones in the Amazon? Whose permission? And they're going to take those bones out of the country. So they're digging people's ancestors up. I mean, people, honestly, if you knew, if only you knew the truth, if only you were open enough to go and research and find out stuff for yourself, you would know why they tell you that your ways are barbaric. You will know why they tell you that, you know, your gods are demonic. You will know because your gods are not demonic. And when I say gods, you know what I'm talking about. We didn't actually believe that there was many gods. In Africa, they don't believe there's many gods. They believe that there's only one creator. If you actually and go and have a look at it properly, it's only one creator. The other ones they call them deities, and every culture has that because they acknowledge that the creator was in nature. They acknowledge that the creator was in the sea. They acknowledge all of that, you know. And I'm not saying that spirituality cannot be dangerous. Of course, it can be dangerous when people start dabbling in the dark arts and all of those things. When you start doing things to harm people, even when you're not dabbling in the dark arts, and you start doing stuff and you do stuff to hurt people, of course that's harmful. Whether you're just praying or, you know, even thinking it, it is harmful. And that's why Jesus told people, before you actually bring your sacrifice, you know, before you go into prayer, go and mend things with someone that you have fallen off with, because it's about the intention. It's the intention. Everything is intention. So that's kind of like enough rambling for me, but that's literally what I, you know, just kind of like really um, what I really wanted to share today with regards to my journey. And feel free to reach out and ask me questions. And if there's something you don't really agree with, you know, feel free to tell me too. I don't get offended. I mean, your journey is your journey. I'm just really sharing my journey, and you know, things like we really need to stop saying things like, you know, astrology is demonic, because it isn't. Um, it just really isn't. Astrology is not demonic. I mean, three wise men, that's how they found Jesus, right? So they used astrology. Um, and it's just so much, you know, just so much stuff. Oh, thank you, Jenny. You have been so cool. Thank you for keeping me company. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's just so much stuff that we really need to we just really need to research, because it's about the research. I'm not telling you to change your beliefs. I'm just telling you to start doing your research. You know, start looking at things deeply, and start seeing where there's illusions and where there's restrictions. This is one of the reasons many people can't really manifest the stuff that they want to manifest, because they're so fearful. They're so afraid to want stuff, because the Bible is telling you that, you know, blessed are the poor. There's no blessing in being poor. I'm sorry. And no one should really strive to be poor, because being poor is an injustice to the Creator. No one really should strive to be poor. And this is the thing that they really encourage in some of the churches. And when people are being taught how to make money, people have an issue with that, because you're not supposed to want anything. You know, you're not supposed to want to do really well. You're not supposed to want to be seen and to be heard. You're not, you know, it's like that's really what religion does to you. It just really dulls everyone down, dumbs everyone down. You're not supposed to talk about the stuff that you do, because that's prideful. So how will people know about what you do? You know, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be meek and humble, and that's how they use people. That's how they take advantage of people. I mean, some of the scriptures that you look at, especially the Beatitudes, um, hell no. Um, being poor is not a blessing. I'm sorry. Um, it really isn't. Yes, it's so true, Jenny. We were created for so much more, so much more. And we should desire all of those things. We should desire all of those good things. We should want to have a blessed life. We should desire to have so much more. We should desire wealth. We should desire freedom. We should desire the good life because it is in our genetic makeup. It is who we are. There's no blessing in being in luck. There's no blessing in missing out. There's no blessing in being in having no freedom. There's no blessing in um, people treating you the way they want to treat you. The thing about turning the other cheek. That's what Africa has been doing all along, turning the other cheek. And I'm talking so much about Africa and the Black people because I am African, and I've seen how religion has destroyed Africa in so many ways. I mean, people, religion is the only is the only system that would buy a whole building that can be used to do business and give employment, and use it as a church where people come and beg God for things. I mean, I just don't get that. All of that money can be used to build so much more and to bring so much more, um, but it's not being used for that. You know, we use what we have. It's like people, instead of investing in themselves and instead of being able to pay for courses and doing stuff to better themselves or to even start businesses, they're busy giving it to the church, and then they're going to borrow other people for money, and it's just not on. And no one is coming to save Africa. Jesus is not coming back. That's it ain't gonna happen. All of those things are metaphors. If you go and read the Bible properly, those things are metaphors. It's No one is coming to save anyone. No one is coming to take you from this place to take you somewhere else. No one is going to do that for you. You do it for yourself. Black people have to do it for themselves. Africans need to do it for themselves. There's no savior coming to save you from the life that you're living. Only us. We are the only ones who can save ourselves. And I can say this because I used to be like that. I used to be like praying so much, and I'd be like, oh, if it's God's will. What do you mean if it's God's will? Of course it's God's will for you to prosper. Goodness. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to deconstructing and coming away from limiting beliefs. It's prayers like those. If it's God's will for me to get this job, hello, how are you going to pay your bills? Of course it's God's will for you to get a job. You know, if it's God's will for me to be, it's just things like those that disempower people. It disempowers you. And it makes you not be responsible for your life, because now some God somewhere sitting in the sky is responsible for you. You put all responsibility on this God, and if things don't happen, it's God's fault. God did not want me to have it. It's not true. We need to come away from that kind of thinking, because it's not true and it's not progressive. And it just really perpetuates this heritage of poverty, of just really backward thinking. And I think we're better than that. We can do so much more for ourselves. um, we It's time for us to reclaim our birthright. I mean, I'm going to end with this. I mean, I remember the first time I actually reclaimed my birthright, and I did it on Facebook. I made this huge announcement about being proud and happy of my heritage. And I remember this Christian was so bothered by it and came and started spewing stuff about Kenya, talking about corruption. And I was thinking, you're talking about corruption. I'm happy about my ancestors. What is your problem? And this is how cognitive dissonance comes in, because this particular person believes that everything in Africa is evil, and they've made you think that, they've made you believe that your ways are evil. They're not evil, because I can guarantee you that they are using what you used to do in this country to get things. It's a fact. It's the only thing is, Africans do not know that. They don't know the strength and the power they have. They don't know the power of their ancestors, and I really wish that they did know. I really wish that they did know. So yeah, I'm kind of like going to end here, but I didn't let that deter me. I'm still very proud of my ancestors. I'm proud of where I came from. I'm proud of that lineage. My lineage is really powerful. Um, my mother's side, they came all the way from, they were from the Wanga dynasty, and they came all the way from Egypt. And I'm hella proud of them. You know, they traveled all the way down and they settled in Kenya and in Egypt. They, you know, there were rulers there. Why would I not be proud of that? You know, I'm proud of my father's lineage from my father's side, because they too traveled down from different regions. My great grandfather, they traveled from Asia. Why would I not be proud of my heritage? Why would anyone try to make me feel like I'm not proud of my heritage? Because my heritage is my lineage. My heritage is not with Jesus. My heritage is with my last name, Khataba. That's my heritage. And on my mother's side, the Wanga, that's my lineage. That's my heritage. And I respect them and I love them, you know, and I'm proud of them. And of course, I will want to know their ways. I want to know what they did, and I want to know how they succeeded. They had so many amazing skills, farming, business skills. Why would I not want to learn that? Why would I want to demonize my own ancestors? And that's what they've got you doing, demonizing your ancestors. You don't want anything to do with what they did. You know, you don't want to have any practices that they had. But then people will go to church and you know, take the blood of Jesus and his body. And I'm thinking, you know, I just don't understand that. You know, um, you would say the herbalists are, you know, you know, the herbalists are evil, and yet the medicine that you're taking is from, you know, it's from herbs, the herbs that you're discounting now. Why, if if those herbs were not so powerful, think about this. If those herbs were not so powerful, why would the pharmaceutical companies make sure that you can't actually I can't actually go and tell people that turmeric helps them um with um with high blood pressure or anything else. Sorry, not high blood pressure, with inflammation. Correct myself. I am not allowed to put on a label that if you take this turmeric, it's going to help you with inflammation. Why do you think that? But then they will use whatever is in there to go and make pills so that you can take them. You can pay for it through your nose and take it to get rid of inflammation. Why do you think that? But it's the same stuff that they have. They just don't want you going back to your ways. They don't want you going back to your roots, because there's power in that. And when I'm talking about this, if anyone is not from Africa, you know, this might not resonate with you, but I'm speaking as someone who's from there, from the motherland, because I know about the herbs. I mean, I was never sick growing up, and because of the herbs that we used to take, never sick, never saw a day in hospital until I had an accident and broke my leg. It's the only reason why I went to hospital. I remember going to the dentist for the first time in this country, and they're like, "Your teeth are perfect. Who's your dentist?" I was like, "This is the first time I'm seeing the dentist." There's so many things that we have within us that are not demonic, and we should not allow the West to tell you that's demonic, because it's not. Your ancestors were not demonic. Their ways were not demonic. Those herbs were not demonic. What they mixed was not demonic. You know, we had these women who would look at you. I mean, we would be taken to them when we were sick. They would look at you and they would know what to go and look for and come and give you those herbs, and you'd be feeling better. That's what they're calling demonic. And I'll end with this. I know I've said this, but I'll end with this. When go and just research and do your study. When they actually when they invaded Africa, the first people they actually got rid of was the women. It was the women who were the seers, the women who were really sensitive in the spirit. It was women who were prophets, who were called seers at that time. It was the astrologers. It was those kind of people that they got rid of, and it's those people that they said was demonic. And for you to conquer a people, you need to conquer them spiritually first before you can do it in the natural. If I can come and strip you of your spirituality, then in the natural, there's nothing. This is why they say, as above, so below. If you're stripped off above spiritually, then you're stripped off below in this 3D realm. This is what they did. They said that those things were demonic. And this is another reason why you're seeing what is going on at this moment, because there has to be a balance restored in this earth. And the balance is now you're seeing there's so many people coming out and saying they're witches, and the pendulum has to swing on the extreme before it actually balances itself out. And this is what we're seeing right now. Because when you get rid of people like that spiritually, you conquer a people. And that is actually what is being restored at the moment. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. Hi, Robert. How are you? Thank you so much for joining, even though I'm just about to jump out. Hello, Henrietta, my twin. How are you? Um, yeah, that is so true. Religion is the opium of the people in Africa, and one of the reasons why Africa is really underdeveloped. I hope we learn and unlearn ways and ethics in the way we worship in this continent. It's so true. It is so true. I mean, yeah, destroy complexes and replace them with churches. Basically, that's what they do. So instead of giving people jobs, they're giving you a place to go and cry and beg to get a job. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'm gonna log off now because I've been here for an hour. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And feel free to send me any questions that you might have. Um, and remember, just go and do your studies. Don't take everything I've said on face value. I encourage you to go and research for yourself. Even challenge my research. I love that. It's very open to that. What I will not take is someone quoting anything without any context. We just don't do one-line scriptures on here. We don't do that. That's something they do in your church, not on this podcast. But yeah, do enjoy your evening, guys, and thank you so much for joining me today. And I do hope that you will join me on that membership, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Facebook. Take care, guys. Bye.